I think it's important to reassure parents that we are the people that know our children best.
Yeah, well, today we're here with Miss Alfonsina. I'm very happy to be here with you today. Thank you for taking the time. Can you just start by sharing some of your journey that brought you to Waldorf? Maybe as early as you would like. I think you said you taught some in Argentina.
I did not teach Waldorf. I
Hmm.
taught English to middle schoolers in Chile.
Oh, Chile.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, so you're asking about like my teaching journey.
Yeah.
So I've done a little bit, I did that in Chile, which was wonderful. And then I have also taught at the Backside Learning Center. So that is behind Churchill Downs, it's behind the scenes. It's migrant workers that want to learn English. And that was wonderful. That was in evenings. Um, I was a mom at the time and pregnant with my second child. And it was right before COVID, close to that. We started at Waldorf in 2019. And I learned about Waldorf through friends of mine, actually, my roommate from college and her friends from Cincinnati were talking about their older kids and where they were going to school. My roommate from college ended up homeschooling her 3 children. And I was kind of late to the party to having kids, which made it nice to have friends to see what they were doing. And so Waldorf came up, and I loved how this mother was sharing Waldorf education with me,
And was this a Waldorf in Cincinnati or this Waldorf here?
Cincinnati.
Okay.
And so when we came back, we go and visit them regularly in Indiana. And when we got back, I started looking at Waldorf schools. So this is before Hugo, my current fifth grader, was even ready for school. But I was kind of just looking ahead to see what the options were, and I loved everything I was learning about it. My husband was a little hesitant. He grew up in public schools. He's from here, from Kentucky, Taylorsville, Kentucky, and he didn't know a lot about it. So I wanted to meet him halfway. We checked out some schools in JCPS. We went to Lincoln and Hawthorne. I loved the fact that it's bilingual, and the Brown, which I'd heard a lot of things about that. I wasn't born here, so there was a lot of learning about, the different schools. So we checked those out, and still, it wasn't fitting. I didn't really like that kindergartners would have a computer class, but there was only one recess. The playgrounds just didn't seem big enough and exciting enough. And so after we did that, I brought Brandon to Waldorf when we were at the old campus, and we had a meeting and got shown around the campus. And this is the year before Hugo would have started kindergarten. And he had a couple days in Miss Evie's class. Miss Evie is one of an elder here now who has been just wonderful and helpful and well known. So he did that and loved it. And then we enrolled him, and he started in Miss Kristen's class.
Can I ask what
Yes, please.
were your husband's hesitancies?
It was more of like not knowing and feeling just maybe a tendency that we humans have of like, well, this worked for me. And what is interesting is that when we came to Waldorf and it was shared when we came to the old campus for the interview, and it was shared what the education is about, he felt like he wished that he had had something like this. He has dyslexia, and it was not really addressed in a helpful manner to help him through that. And so he found his ways of going around that. And he's always felt that this school would have been a beautiful place for him. That is lovely. And it has been true of our child. We have 2 children. And Hartford was also here. He's a current first grader, but he's at a different school. He
Okay.
happens to be at a public school.
Okay.
We were here for 3 years, and it was not meeting him. And this is something that I like to share with parents, because I had a vision that we were going to be here, all throughout. And when I started working here, it was even more of like, this will be our journey together, the boys and I. And then it got to a point where it felt like Hartford and Hugo are very different. And it wasn't what Hartford needed, wanted, it wasn't fitting him. And so last year we were thinking, what are our options? And it was a grieving time for me because it wasn't what I envisioned. And so we thought, well, let's just try the end of the year at this public school that we had heard good things about. And so we did that. And it was all really quick. And I did not feel comfortable with all of that. And he went. And we were lucky enough to have a festival the Friday before he started. So we got to go and see what it was all about and interact with parents and with children. And that was calming for my heart. And he's there this year. And the reason why I like sharing this with parents is that as much as I love Waldorf and feel like it is the best place for my fifth grader, I also think that it's important to recognize that we're all different and there's different options out there. And now I also still think about Hartford coming back. That is a possibility. And I would love that. I also see his growth that he's going through right now and that it's very positive. I think it's important to reassure parents that we are the people that know our children best and to trust that we know what is best for them. And it might not be what you had drawn up, and that's okay. And another thing that I try to remind myself about is that it's all an experiment, and you see, is it working? And when it works, that's great, and you keep on going. And when it doesn't, then you figure something else out, and you try something new. And that's what we did with Hartford.
That's really valuable because it feels equally important that parents are able to tell maybe this isn't the right fit for their student. And can you point to any indicators for a potential parent that would suggest, no, this is maybe not the right choice for my child?
Yes. My kiddo is very awake. He's a younger sibling. And that's part of it, and part of it is his personality. It was hard for him to do a second year of kindergarten because here you can do 2 years or 3 years, and it has a beautiful progression, with your daughter, and you grow with each year. For him, it just felt like I've been in this room, I've done this before, and I'm ready for more. And he was hungry for more, and I didn't realize that. Because this was in my mind, this was the best plan, and I saw him flourish and grow in a different setting. Now, my older child is in fifth grade and I can't imagine him anywhere else. I really can't. We've, thought about the future for high school and thought, should we maybe consider having a different experience for middle school? And, so that was just conversations that Brandon and I were having. And then we were like, but why? We know plenty of kiddos that have finished at Waldorf and transitioned into high school with no, problems, they're actually have strengths above their peers because of the education here. But there's those fears, right? When you're going to do something that isn't the norm,
Right.
You're thinking outside the box. You might have a family event and you're talking about what your kiddo's doing and so is doing this. And that thing that we have a tendency of doing of comparison, right? And I find that Waldorf is a commitment. It's a commitment to a whole experience. And that's not always going to be at the same rhythm, the same timeline as other schools. So that is part of my story.
Yeah. Wow, that's really valuable. Now, as a parent and an educator here working with the students, I guess can you share about that kind of global perspective that you're getting? Like you have this at home, and Waldorf is something that very often, it comes into our homes and has a way of helping to shape our homes and the rhythms there. But you've got a really broad and unique perspective. I wonder if you can just kind of speak to that holistically?
That was something that Brandon and I talked about, and my concern of like, I don't want this experience of one child going to a different school, just kind of like, what is that going to mean for our home life? And Brandon was actually very reassuring, and and also noted that there's a beautiful root, and it is from your home. Where your child might go to school is where they pick up some things, right? They're learning, they're rubbing their edges with peers and figuring things out socially. But the foundation is the home. And so that has been something that has been consistent with Hartford going to a public school. We really haven't changed too much about anything we haven't changed anything that was a result of that. And so I like that too. I like knowing that we can give them both.
So when how do I ask this? It's like my curiosity is, like when you are working in the school you mentioned before we started to record that you're seeing, because of your position, you're seeing children all throughout the day, right? And I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to get to here, is that you have, I feel like, an even broader perspective of the children's day than maybe their full-time teacher, right? And so what do you see throughout the day that the children experience in the different classrooms and environments that they go into that informs their whole education?
That's a big question. All right. So yes, I follow them all day around, except for, and when I say follow, I'll explain that in a second. I have one 45-minute break throughout the day, so the rest is with them. And what I mean by following is that at the beginning of the year, I'm more involved with the lead teacher in what the expectations are, and doing a little bit more holding with the children as they find their community and as they find their rhythm with the lead teacher. And as they progress and grow and feel more comfortable in the setting of having desks and a longer day, then I start trying back a little bit so that they can recognize that there's one leader, one teacher in the room. I am there to help them, but their focus is on the person that is teaching them. So that's kind of a little slow progression that usually happens where it's needed, but usually like around halfway through the year. I start just kind of to prepare them for second grade, where they won't have an assistant teacher. Another part of your question, main lesson is going to be led by the lead teacher, and it is where a lot of the work is done. So that's where the math and reading happens, that learning. And that is a longer time, right? It's an hour and a half typically. In first grade, we sometimes stop for a snack a little bit earlier, depending on their capacity and what they're learning. And in that time, there is a rhythm of in and out and up and down, in the sense of like something that's movement and then something that's sitting. Then we have snack and recess. I take them to the recess yard, which is also a great way to see how the social dynamics are going in the class. We start out the beginning of the year, actually, where they have their morning recess is more in a smaller setting. So it's here in the courtyard. And the reason for that is that in the beginning of the year, you are really focusing on community and creating their class dynamic. And so that's time for them to be together while all the other grades are in different yards, in the swing yard together. And that's another way that they also progress, enjoying the whole school, up to fifth grade in the swing yard later on in the year. That typically happens around after Christmas. But it's all dependent on where they are.
Okay. Huh.
Did you have a question?
No, that's just interesting. I didn't realize there was that kind of gradual introduction from kindergarten into their own classroom and then into the wider school, and it just strikes me as really helpful and supportive of the children.
I agree, and having seen and knowing as a parent and also working here, how early childhood is more in a dream, beautiful dreamscape. That transitioning, even though we're right next to each other, transitioning to this side of the school in the grades it's a big jump for early childhood kiddos. Kindergarten to first grade there's desks, there's lines without ropes, there's it's just different. There's verses to call in a teacher. You have different teachers. It's a whole new experience. So another thing that is done in first grade to kind of ease that transition is that a lot of specialty teachers will come to our classroom and we'll do the specialty class in the classroom. So there isn't so much transition.
Okay.
Because that can be hard. The transitions are tricky. I mean, I'm sure you have noticed that at home with your children, right?
I've honestly, that has been one of the biggest parts of my Waldorf education is realizing how important transitions are and like meaningful, intentional transition.
So that is, and I feel like there's a lot of meaning and intention in how things are done here. And so that being another one where it's just a slow building, where as they're building their capacity and feeling confident in what they can do, it's a beautiful trend.
Here.
And so main lesson, snack and recess, and then we have 2 blocks of specialty classes, and those are 45 minutes long each. And that is handwork, practical arts, movement, language.
I was going to ask, does Spanish gets introduced in first grade?
It does. So there's 1 block of Spanish in first grade, and then it starts to build. I believe second is also 1 block, and then it starts building in third.
Okay.
And music, I believe, is the same. I've been out of the other grades for 2 years now. I was in grade support before where I knew a little bit more about the other classes' schedules. Like I know 5th grade because my kiddo's in there. But the music also will build as well. So they start with 1 music class in first grade as well.
Okay. So does the first grade teacher follow the students, or does that start with second grade?
Well, in second grade, that is when they are ready to call in their teacher that they're transitioning to. So in second grade, Miss Bain will be taking the second graders to handwork, and that is over by the swing yard. And she will have them ready to call in Miss Katie.
What do you mean calling?
Call in is when you sing, Miss Katie, are you here? And the response can be different, but depending on the teacher. And so that is done, and then the kiddos with that's a cue that they are now in their specialty teacher's hands, and that is who's going to lead them for the next chunk of time.
I just continue to learn so much about the school, and I love every bit of it. So does that mean that my student, my third grader, that when he's in a specialty, he calls his teacher in versus, wow, like these little subtle differences that I can feel the impact of how that shifts the ownership and the relationship to the whole process.
It's a little transition.
Yeah.
And I am not a comfortable singer, but I have learned to get comfortable with it. So I can't believe, just singing right now, recorded, is not something that would have happened 3 years ago.
Okay. All right.
So that's my growth. Yeah, I do feel like I've grown, actually. Not
Certainly.
only am I singing, but I think that joining Waldorf as a parent, there was a growth there. And then joining as a staff member 3 years ago was also it was just wonderful to see and witness the teachers and seeing the different styles and just I appreciate it so much. I'm constantly learning.
Yeah. As a parent, I can attest to that. Okay, so I want to come back to, now I just sat down with Teacher Rickard, and Teacher Rickard taught Theo in second grade and now third grade and in fourth grade and so on. Does the first grade teacher follow the same? They will start with first grade, or does that start with the second grade teacher?
So this is an interesting question because different Waldorf schools do it differently.
Okay.
There are, and I'm giving you a little bit of background of what I know of other schools because it hasn't always been consistent. Sometimes needs are different.
Right.
So, for example, Cincinnati, they have a designated first grade teacher.
Okay.
And the thought behind that is just having a consistent teacher that helps the children do that transition. It's a huge transition year. It is the beginning of the grades. It's an important year. And then after that, they would have a second grade teacher that might loop in this part. I'm not sure if it's Cincinnati, but other schools do this model, where the second grade teacher would then maybe have them for second, third, and fourth maybe, and then loop around. There's different loopings.
Okay.
Which I think that is an interesting idea. And sometimes we've done that here, not necessarily on purpose, but it's what the need has been.
Okay.
For example, Robin Lanier and Mike Eager have spent a lot of time in the middle school looping and not coming back to first.
Okay.
So that is another idea, another way of doing it, where you'd have like, I think the model that I've seen is first and second might loop, and then third, fourth, and fifth might loop.
Okay.
And then sixth, seventh, and eighth could loop in there. There are some Waldorf schools that do the first through fifth or the first through eighth. That has happened here. But things change. It needs change. And I think that it's wonderful that we're in a place to kind of explore and expand those ideas. Personally, I know that I find it refreshing. I'm somebody that likes change. I find it refreshing to have new opportunities, right? So there's a beautiful thing about you could have a teacher that knows you really well, has known you for years and years. And then it's also nice to have like almost a fresh start, a fresh perspective. I think that's really wonderful in the transition between fifth grade and sixth grade, when there's a lot of change already happening inside, body and mind, and then also that shift into middle school. It's kind of nice to step into a new realm.
Yeah, I can see that would kind of, you would feel that initiation a little bit more so, which is the initiations within Waldorf. It's something that we're generally missing as a society, and I've seen how valuable that is to my son just being here for 2 years. And I guess I'm curious, like over the years, because I guess what I'm hearing in your story that's pretty unique that I've not heard so far is how the school overall is really trying to pay attention to what the needs are where it's at right now. And then there is the overlaying kind of developmental pedagogy. And so how, you've been here for 3 years, I'm curious, this is maybe a bigger question than you can answer with the time frame that you've been here, but I wonder how these initiations have changed as the needs change within the school and the student population.
I'm not sure I'm understanding the question exactly. When you say like initiations, your initiations with the pedagogy?
Well, I guess I feel like there's the pedagogical initiations and there's the developmental, like social age. And as I understand it, that the pedagogy there's a framework there that is built around, like, tell it better than me.
Are we talking about like that 9-year change and the stories that come in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So meeting them at where they are in their growth,
Right.
like in their 7-year changes.
Yeah.
And you're asking how is that? Go ahead.
There's that consistency, and then there is the meeting the needs when they arise. And I wonder if there's any friction there that arises, or how those two different it sounds like to me I'm hearing two different kinds of initiation or tracks of initiation that are running together. And I don't know, I'm just finding it interesting if there's I like when things become challenging, and I'm imagining that there's more challenge there to explore as the needs of the school and the individual classrooms and where it's at also line up with that through line of the developmental pedagogy.
Okay. I think I'm hearing you right. And so I'll answer it in the way that I think you're asking. There is what Rudolf Steiner wrote of how his form on how the growth of a
Yes.
human. Okay. And overlaid with that, are we talking about the needs of children now and how different they were
Yes,
before?
that's the thing.
Okay.
I didn't want to bring Steiner in because I talk about Steiner a lot, but
Okay.
since you did, yes.
Well, and I'm gonna only limit what I say to what I know because
Okay.
I've read it, or it's been discussed. I can tell you that one of my favorite things this year has been to see how a child's behavior is not seen as good or bad. It is seen as, what is this behavior asking for? What is the need underneath this? And then really taking the time to think about that. And what I'm saying in it being this year, I'm working with Casey Bain, who's been doing this for 15 years or more. I hope that's accurate. And seeing that lens of it being, where do I need to meet this child? What are they asking for? Because it's so wonderful when you can see behavior as an ask. It's not, like I said, it's not a good or bad situation. It's what is being needed, what is needed. And so that, I think that when you have this framework, this foundation, but you have the ability to adjust it for who's in front of you, that's what's beautiful, right? That's what makes it work. And I do see that happening here a lot. I love that. And I think it's, children of today are very different from children of 100 years ago. It's neither good nor bad. It is just the reality. And my understanding is that Rudolf Steiner actually wrote about that. Is take what I'm offering, what I have as this picture, and also recognize that it needs to be adjusted to the time.
That's exactly what I was trying to get to. How do we work with the existing teachings and models that the school is founded on with the changing times and the changing students? And it sounds like it is on just as needs. You can't really answer that question until you're in the moment with it.
Right, because it's who's in front of you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's so important.
It's also, I think about this time in the world, and I think that this is the time where Waldorf will flourish more. I see that, or I think that, I hope that, I believe that, because I feel like that's what's needed.
Yeah. How much further do we have to get into the darkness before we're ready for that light is maybe a question that I'm asking
Right.
myself, but I think you're completely right. We're seeing the effects of, screens, ubiquitous screens in the schools, and the, dogmatic testing and disconnecting from nature and community. And I think Waldorf fulfills all those needs. But I so appreciate your time here and sharing, especially that perspective of, being able to have a student that was here and recognizing that it's not the right thing for them right now. That's really valuable and helpful. So thank you, Ms. Alfonsina, for everything that you do. And for
My
the
pleasure.
time here.